first let's talk about the important stuff. I do think, that not just the country, but the world stood still yesterday. I mean, goodness knows what it's going to be like on Monday. But the scenes as we saw the Queen's coffin being carried underneath the royal standard, on the gun carriage, drawn by the horses, the guardsmen of the royal family walking behind. It was one of the most spectacular, moving things I've ever seen.
Yes, and I remember listening on all this coverage that we're getting to. One of the women who, as a young child, was tasked with accompanying the Queen for her coronation, and she told the story of how after the coronation, the Queen got behind closed doors, put the crown on the floor by her feet for a rest. And of course, that same crown that we saw being led on top of the coffin down the Mall yesterday was baby Prince Charles, aged 5 years old, so we're told, tried to lift this heavy crown onto his head to get a little polite telling off from the Queen. But now, of course, he's walking there, King Charles III, and he will wear the sovereign's crown when he has his coronation. And we probably see scenes like this all over again, probably. In the spring. So
indeed, but what's interesting though is that actually that's the longest procession. That when the Queen's coffin is moved from Westminster Hall, where it's going to lie in state until Monday morning, full days, people are going to get a chance to walk by and pay their respects in Westminster Hall. But that's only going to be moved to Westminster Abbey, a much shorter route that's going to be taken before the funeral ceremony. So in a way, that was some of the biggest pageantry we will see, involving the royal family there walking behind, and of course there's lots of pictures and close-up pictures of King Charles and, of course, walking behind a number of the women, the consort, the Princess of Wales and others in cars behind. But Princess Anne taking her place alongside her brothers. But what I thought a lot of people would say was interesting, of course, we did have, Harry and Meghan there as well in Westminster Hall, lots of focus on them. But for me, I'm still a bit confused by this rule about the medals and the uniforms that they're allowed to wear. The two royals who have actually served in war genuinely have been heroes. Prince Andrew in the Falklands and Prince Harry in Afghanistan, 2 tours of Afghanistan. Look, you can think what you think of them, and I certainly have a very dim view of Prince Andrew for obvious reasons and Prince Harry. They were allowed to wear their medals, but were not allowed to wear their uniforms because they're no longer working royals. But they're the only ones who've actually fought for us and risked their lives.
Well, that's true. And actually, for people that maybe saw all of those roles, including obviously the King, covered in all sorts of different medals on their chest. Well, actually, Harry, as you say, Harry and the Duke of York, Prince Andrew, there are the only serving members. Are they serving members? They are the only part of the modern royal family who have actually served their country in a war, served the Queen, if you like, in a war situation in the Falklands for Andrew, and of course twice in Afghanistan for Harry. But they are not full-time working royals, and what we are seeing here, Julia, and it's actually quite refreshing after the last couple of years with the royal family, we are seeing compromise. And Prince Andrew, the compromise is, Andrew, you can come out of your cupboard, for want of a better phrase, but you can't wear a uniform. And Harry, fantastic to have Harry there, so important, and good on Harry actually for going along with it, but no uniform. He has left the royal family as a working royal, so his ceremonial function of wearing a uniform representing a regiment that he might be commander-in-chief of, he's not anymore.
That's the thing. That's what the other royals are doing. Let's talk. We can't escape it. Let's talk about Meghan and Harry being there. Of course, he was in the country quite by chance for the same week that sadly the Queen lost her life. He's often talked about how close he was with the Queen. By all accounts, he enjoyed a very good relationship, but he'd barely seen her in recent years. And of course, I think his children have barely met the Queen. Lilibet, his younger daughter, she's only met the Queen only briefly once. They've not seen, she's not met their cousins. I mean, he's very much outside the family now. Having Meghan and Harry there, particularly Meghan there, look, it would be a story if they weren't there. It's a story if they are there. Is there any real, genuine sign that there has been any sort of rapprochement? We saw that walkabout in Windsor, and all the papers were saying reunited in grief. I mean, these people can't read body language very well, can they? Because I'd tell you what, Kate was having none of it.
No, we've all become experts in body language, and I think I'm just halfway through an Open University course on lip reading so that I can actually tell you what's going on, Julia. But look, it's difficult. We're in a period of mourning, and of course we can see the national outpouring of both love for the Queen but also respect. we cannot unfortunately get away from the fact that just a day or two before the Queen died, Meghan was taking part in what is a series of, I believe, 11 Spotify podcasts. She's published 2. Some might remember the one with Venus Williams. That was her first.
Serena, I think it was Serena, wasn't it? Yeah.
Sorry, Serena Williams. Yeah, forgive me. It was critical of the Queen, of the royal family, and it reignited some of those divisions. It stirred up a hornet's nest. She comes here, of course, events change, and everything seems to be stuck on its head with the royals. And we have to hope that common sense will prevail as those 2 boys who love each other very much, I mean, how could they walk down the Mall yesterday behind the Queen's coffin on a carriage and not be taken right back to the most traumatic moment in their lives at their mother's funeral? So there's feelings of hope, there's feelings of, is it time to bury the hatchet? But then, of course, lying underneath the background of all of this, when it comes specifically to Meghan and Harry, is the book coming and more podcasts.
And we still think that book is coming out. The thing is, there's already been quite a backlash towards Harry and Meghan. There seems to be sort of younger generation, older generation view of, duty and the celebrity of the Harry Meghan sort of little world. It seems to me that they got a lot of sympathy for the things she said, Oprah Winfrey, but then lots of people are now reading into. And I always defended Piers Morgan, my colleague here at talkTV, when he basically lost his job for basically saying what was completely now known to be factually true, that Meghan's relationship with the truth is tenuous at best, and he had every right to criticise her for that. It does seem to me that they may find that there is a huge backlash. You might sell a load of books, but actually, they only make money because of their relationship with the royal family. Some bloke called Harry and some 2-bit no-mark actress from some Netflix series, I'm sorry, would not be making these sorts of sums. They're only making it because of their relationship with the royals, when they're seen to constantly be exploiting it, especially in the wake of a family death. I'm not sure that's going to go down well with the general public.
Well, it hasn't gone down well, Julia, at all. And a lot of the stuff that I've been doing in the past few days since the Queen died has actually been on the other side of the pond, if you like, with a lot of American TV. The interest in there is enormous. I mean, they are leaving the carriage procession yesterday, for example. That was on primetime morning television in America for over an hour. I mean, Meghan is a part of that. And let's not forget, in America, with Oprah Winfrey, Meghan and Harry accused a member of the royal family they wouldn't identify of being racist and making racist comments about the colour of Archie's skin. How can we forget that? And in America, there's a sense that, well, hang on a minute, okay, what's Meghan and Harry are back there, but what about everything else that's been said? What about all that water? It's very difficult now, Julia. If William and Harry do really reconnect, and they start having that relationship, which we know deep down they want. They love each other. They're not enemies.
Well, they're the only for each of them, they are the only person who has gone through what they've gone through. Only William and Harry know what it's like to go through losing their mother so publicly in that way. Let me ask you just finally, you mentioned doing a lot of media with work with the Americans. The New York Times is saying the Queen Elizabeth's funeral will involve elaborate processions, vigils and rituals. You can feel the tone, can't you? Will be paid for by British taxpayers as they deal with soaring energy prices and high inflation. The British government has not yet said how much it will cost. I mean, apparently we're all living in mud huts. We can't afford to give a good send-off to our head of state, paid for by the state, which is what everyone would expect. Look, I've been a lifelong Republican. I am more than happy to help pay for a send-off for a magnificent Queen of 70 years service to this country, and I really don't know anybody who isn't. What do you make of that? The New York Times British bashing again?
Well, you've got to assess the mood, and frankly, I think people listening today, yeah, sure, there'll be some that say this is all a waste of money, and what on earth are we doing with a head of state that we don't even have a choice about who it is or elect? But that's missing the point. I think if you look at those queues, it may not be the longest queue in the world yet, but it's certainly the most orderly. People want to pay their respects. I mean, you know, if you've ever flown in with EasyJet, you know what a queue feels like, and people aren't normally that friendly and happy when they're standing there. Yeah. So, you know, the New York Times, I think, is probably wrong, and it'll be interesting. Maybe the Telegraph or the Daily Mail can write a piece about when Joe Biden comes over next week on Air Force One with 150 staff and great big gas-guzzling cars that are all paid for by the American public, who are also going through the same problem. Yeah. So, I think that was just a bit of badly timed editorial.
Yeah, the only thing is they do it all the time. Well, I'm going to get to lots of people between texting and tweeting in their reaction to that. Duncan Larkham, good to talk to you, sir, former royal editor at The Sun. Thank you for that. 8:19 is the time. Up next, we're going to talk about that queue, how to join it, where to join it, how long will you have to wait. That's all coming up here on Talk Breakfast.